multitasking. Okay, so I think we are recording now as well. So I'm just going to jump into the teaching and learning Canvas website. Mine will look a little bit different than yours because I'm just on the teacher view rather than the student view. Actually, we can just plug into that maybe. There we go. So I'm going to scroll down to our activities design rough draft. First of all, we had some questions about that this afternoon. So basically what that activities design rough draft is you're just going to go out and do a little research, find some activities that you are interesting to you that you could see putting into maybe like a unit of some kind, or maybe it's separate activities based on different interest levels. So like Anna, you were just talking about special education. Maybe you would go out and find some activities that would get your students engaged in that topic. So even if, let's say you're going to have this lesson plan for your parents, maybe you would find an activity that actually puts those parents in a role as a special education student. Like what's coming to my mind is, I was working with some undergrads, getting them to understand the importance of, working with vocabulary and stuff with English language learners. So one of the things that I had them do is I would give them a topic and they would have to describe that topic without using certain letters in the alphabet. Like maybe they had to come up with, talk to me about their favorite movie, but they couldn't use a word that had the letter L in it. Well, it's not that that would be similar, but yet at the same time, it's learning how to totally talk differently with the language you have. So that's just kind of an activity that I'm thinking that you could turn into a lesson plan. And so for the rough draft, really all we're doing is coming up with 3 to 5 different activities. And we were just doing a little brief explanation of each of those activities. And then you'll share those in a discussion with your fellow classmates. So any questions about the rough draft portion of it?
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
So then we'll jump ahead here. Oh, I did add a few things. I should probably note that on the very bottom here, under materials, I did add some standards. I'm not sure that either one of you will need it, but if we've got some K-12 teachers especially that want to focus on a particular standard, they could look at these resources. They're just broken down by Common Core, which is kind of that, are you guys both familiar with Common Core?
Yeah.
Okay, to kind of get us all on the same page as far as when we teach things in grade levels. I also put South Dakota state standards, which I don't know how things are in Washington, D.C. or Vermont, but a lot of states have basically taken those Common Core, called it their own state, and they use about 85 to 90% of the Common Core language anyway. But so that's kind of a workaround for some of the states, I guess. And then there's also a website here where you just plug in the state you're at, and that will take you to some different information for standards. Okay. But with Anna, especially with your topic, and Jenny, and I'm not sure where you're going with yours yet, but I don't know that the standards would necessarily apply to you guys. I just wanted to point those out for you.
Yeah. I know there's like the college and career standards within Common Core, and I'm wondering if I should connect it to like the WIA Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. I think that's what WIA stands for. Wondering if I should like connect it that way.
Yep, you certainly could do that. And then basically, you'll find that on what I'm expecting for your activities design, that final draft doesn't have to be as detailed as a lesson plan, but you're definitely going to want to write about 3 goals or objectives. So you could use, the information that you have then to write your goals and objectives for that lesson.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, let's progress forward here. Okay, so this is the final draft for the activities design. And this is where we're going to actually come up with more of our lesson plan that we're going to use for this activities. And You know, you guys are both familiar with education. So for those who might be watching this later, as far as coaching or things like that, I consider a lesson plan kind of like your map or your game plan for what's going on in your classroom or on the field. You want to make sure that you're planning for that. So this just kind of gets everything down on paper for us. So all we need to have in the particular lesson plan that you guys use, that activities design, is going to be a title. The course that it would support, which Anna, in your case, it wouldn't necessarily be a course. It would just be, you know, adult learning or parent learning or something like that would work well for that. And then, as I mentioned before, those 3 student learning goals for the activity. So what are you trying to get out of that activity? What do you want your students or your parents to walk away from? Materials would be like technology, supplementary materials, like if you have handouts that you want to give them, maybe you're going to show a video that kind of explains maybe a particular learning disability or something like that. You know, anything with like college and career readiness, there's probably some pretty good videos out there that you could use kind of as an anticipatory as well. And then the steps to complete the activity. And we'll talk about that in a minute when we look over the lesson plan a little bit. We always kind of try to do a little bit of direct instruction where you're modeling for your student, and then indirect where they're actually kind of doing the activity on their own.
Okay.
And then how you would conclude it. Are you going to have them, you know, make a presentation? Are they going to just engage in a discussion? You know, how are you going to kind of assess that learning so you know that you've achieved those goals for that particular activity or lesson?
Okay.
Okay, any questions so far?
No, so far this seems pretty standard.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to go into, like I said, this is a lesson plan that we use for the undergrads, and so they have a lot more in there than we're going to need, but I'll just kind of show you some different ideas along with that. I think I'm going to have to, if I remember correctly, bounce back out here.
And we don't necessarily have to use this specific template?
Okay.
No, you can use one that you have. You can use one that you know, your state recommends or that you guys have been using in the past. Yeah, you don't have to use this Dakota Wesleyan one. It's just basically here for people who haven't been involved in education at all or haven't been in the classroom, kind of to guide them along the way.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So maybe you'll see something in here that you like, and if not, that's fine too. Like I said, you don't have to use this particular lesson plan. Okay, do we have the lesson plan in front of us?
Yep.
All right. So, you know, this name, content area, and so on, that'll, you know, if you use this particular lesson plan, that'll be things that you'll want to fill in. For grade level, if you decide you're going to work with parents or with teachers, then just adjust that as needed. So the standard side of things, remember I said the standards are pretty much just going to lead us towards our objectives. So in the activities design that you're going to submit, you don't have to have standards on there, but you will want to make sure you have this objective piece. Like, what are those 3 objectives or goals that our, you know, students, whoever they happen to be, will get out of this. Okay. Let me bounce back into this other one real quick. Okay. So the assessment piece, that really is more for the undergraduate level. With you guys, with your assessment piece, I would correlate that to this assignment in terms of how the activity would conclude. You know, if you're doing a discussion or something like that, you'll kind of want to gauge their understanding through that to decide if there's, you know, areas that you maybe want to cover. Another thing you could maybe do is have a discussion component throughout the activity, like different questions that you would ask. That way you can kind of use that as a formative assessment piece and know that, okay, we need to circle back and discuss this a little bit more because it seems that that's unclear. Another thing you could do is like have a Kahoot or some type of online activity or even a poll. Like that Poll Everywhere is kind of a cool site, just to kind of get their feedback. Like if you're going to discuss maybe like IEP goals or something. Maybe you could put up a quick poll to make sure everybody understands it before you move on. So those would all be types of formative assessment pieces that you could use. Again, the activities design that we're looking at is more so, you know, it is listed right now as just kind of the end of the activity assessment. And so that's up to you how you use that. The anticipatory and vocabulary, those are really kind of for our undergraduate students, but I really like the idea of you using some type of anticipatory in your activities design to kind of get your students, you know, orientated with the material and get them engaged in what they're going to be talking about. So I always kind of like to see that. It's not a requirement on that activities design, but it just kind of shows a little bit higher level, I would say, of thinking process that goes into that lesson plan.
I think this was one of the things I had questions about. I have never heard the term in lesson planning, anticipatory.
Okay.
I looked at it and I was like, anticipatory.
Yep. So this is how we get our undergrads involved in what an anticipatory is. So we show them, did you guys ever watch Friends? I might be dating myself here significantly, but okay. So like Friends, Seinfeld, anything like that, you know, they always have like that minute or so teaser, and then they jump to commercial, and then they come back and show the show. Mm-hmm. So that little teaser that they do at the beginning, that would be called an anticipatory. So you know, they're trying to hook us with their humor, or if it's like CSI, you know, with the big mystery or something. So that's what an anticipatory is just a way to get our students involved. So some teachers might show a quick little video. Some teachers might have a question that they post on the board, or maybe they have the students journal for a couple minutes, you know, do a quick write about the topic that you're about to explore, just to kind of get them thinking, get them away from, you know, what just happened at recess or in the lunchroom, or in Anna's case, you know, them thinking, God, I really would like to be at work right now. You know, if you're working with parents, how can I engage them in that material? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Anna, do you have any suggestions too, with you being elementary? Do you have any ideas that you could shout out for us?
Yeah. When I taught elementary, we called it the hook. And I forget what it's called. Not Kahoot.
Is it Quizlet?
Quizlet's good. There's this one where they have like dancing videos and stuff, like Cuckoo Kangaroo.
Yeah. We use that for our little kids in summer camp.
They have a lot of really good like math and vocabulary ones, or like whoever owns Cuckoo Kangaroo has like a bunch of different groups that do the same thing. And I remember using a lot for the different functions in math. So there's like addition, multiplication, subtraction, division, and that they're like just play that. And that was like the song to get ready. And then like after we did the activity, that was the song to clean up again.
Perfect.
So it was like really good for transitions.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You bet. So does that kind of help Jenny to kind of figure that out? Yeah. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
So vocabulary, you know, we probably won't need to worry about that. However, if you wanted to, there will be some vocabulary that, like say in your lesson plan, if you're working with parents, that might be a good idea to kind of highlight before you get into the bulk of your lesson, because they might not have an idea of some of that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I like, along with vocabulary, like describe like the different statutes as to why like these laws are there.
Yep.
Just like some background information.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you could have a series of, you know, presentations to parents. I really do. So one of the struggles you might have is trying to narrow it down into how am I going to, you know, and you can create a unit. You can have several lessons within this, you know, activities design, but yet you've got a big topic there.
Yeah, I'm thinking to maybe shrink it down to just specific IEP goals, because that in itself is like there's goals and objectives, and like why do we relate them to on grade level content standards. So I mean, there's so many parts to an IEP, so I'm thinking like shrink it down to this one little piece where they can really have a say.
Yeah, that makes sense. We're helping one parent. The name was wrong throughout the entire IEP.
Oh
Oh my
no.
goodness, that's not good.
The wrong name.
Oh goodness. All right. So in terms of, I think the activities design refers to it as steps to complete the activity. So getting in a little bit more detail, we kind of refer to as direct and indirect instruction.
Okay.
But how detailed you want to get is completely up to you, just so you've got, kind of the steps basically of, if you are sitting in front of this classroom, what are the steps you're going to take to get through that lesson? So we have direct instruction, which is more where we're modeling or we're lecturing or we're working through problems together on the board, versus indirect instruction where the students themselves are kind of working with that information that you've given them. Closure then is just basically how you're going to end the lesson. You might, I feel bad, Anna, I kind of keep using you as an example because that's what's top of my head right now. But, if you wanted to say, okay, today we really focused on our IEP goals and how we need to advocate for our students, you can find more information here or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just basically a closing up of that lesson so that there's kind of closure there, I guess. And then questions, if you want to write down some of the questions you'd use throughout the lesson, you can. But again, that is kind of going into, a little bit more detailed than it needs to be. And then the materials, technology, and resources. That would just be anything that you need for the lesson. In terms of materials, technology, maybe you would need, an Apple TV or a projector or computer. References, if you find something online that you really like and you kind of tweak it and make it your own, you'll still want to cite that source as a reference just to make sure you're giving credit, where credit's due, because that's not off the table either. If you find something online that you like, you can certainly, as educators, I feel like sometimes we always try to reinvent the wheel and we don't necessarily need to. We can find something that's out there and just tweak it to what we need it to be. So on the second through, I'm not sure how many page document this is, 2nd through 6th page, it kind of goes through each one of those items that I just talked about. So that's just there for your, perusal. If you want to look through it, you can, and it'll kind of go in depth with each one of the items on that lesson plan.
Thank you.
Sorry, that was kind of like a fire hose of information. So any questions that you have?
No, I think you answered like the ones that were the most confusing to me.
Okay.
The procedure and the anticipatory, that word.
Hook. I like that Anna brought up the word hook. That's used.
I like the hook word. I don't know if you, I don't know. I think me and you, Anna, are probably on the same page. I used to watch Kenan and Kel.
Oh my gosh, yes. Who loves orange soda? I do.
And whenever Kenan's boss would give them a new word,
Yeah.
it's just like anticipatory.
All right, now I'm gonna have to look up a little clip of that. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a great show.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing here for a second. Let's go back to that original assignment here. Okay, so again, that lesson template is really just there for more knowledge. You don't have to use that particular lesson template. You can use something you already have, or if you find something online that works well, feel free to use that as well.
Awesome.
And that's all I really wanted to run through tonight, was just kind of help you guys out with that assignment and the lesson plan itself. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have. If you need, want to work through some of your ideas, I can help with that.
Does the upload have to be in a Word document, or Melissa like showed me Canva, and
Yeah.
then we used it for other stuff, and I'm like really into it now.
Yes.
Um,
I
That
love
was
Canva.
great.
yeah, I can't tell if the upload will support that. I don't know if like it goes to a Turnitin or something.
You bet. Let me take a look here real quick. I'm going to leave student view and edit. Okay, now it can collect any of them.
Okay, cool.
So
Thank
if you
you.
want to turn it in via Word document, you can, PDF, website link, Canva, it'll accept them all.
Cool. Awesome.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great tool. I like that.
Yeah. They're so pretty.
They are.
are.
They are, definitely.
We use them for everything. Flyers, permission slips.
Yeah.
Really? And I just found out about it like, I don't know, 5-6 months ago. It's like taking me right back to my marketing roots, only it's way simpler to use.
So
I love
simple.
it.
Yeah.
It's very easy to use.
I
Yeah.
figures that South Dakota would, be the last to get it. It's kind of like good music, the music just kind of filters around unless we travel. We got to wait for it to get to us. But
I think that's it. I'm working on the teaching philosophy thing.
perfect. Okay.
Same. I was thinking about updating mine because I had one when I was teaching elementary, but I'm kind of thinking of it like teaching adults now.
You bet. Yeah.
I've never come up with a teaching philosophy. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I'm not like a teacher, but I'm a teacher. It's weird.
I would say definitely the work you are doing with your students.
Oh yeah.
I think definitely, just off the top of my head, I would think that your philosophy would include that, make sure you include that inclusive element, how you are working with your students to make sure that, all of your students are college and career ready. I think that's going to be important, at least knowing you and knowing what you're doing right now. I think that would be a great piece to have in there.
Yeah. And
Right.
just knowing you for like a half hour in person, I think like your attitude, your brightness, like is a huge part of that too. Like bringing that into any room is huge. Really gets kids pumped up.
I love it. Like, despite like being tired, those kids give me a lot more energy. It was very funny. I had to tell them to stop doing things, and it was hilarious. I miss seeing you guys in person. Like, even when I can, every once in a while, I can't even touch you and hug you or anything.
I hear you.
So weird.
That's how I am with my college student, the undergrads too, but they're still in person, but still wearing masks and everything else. So we're keeping it safe.
Is it weird just seeing like a bunch of eyes?
It is. Probably the worst part for me is especially starting off. So I teach a children's literature class right now. And so most of the students are in there are freshmen and sophomores, but they're not actually in the education program yet. Like that's one of their first classes. And so to not see their facial expressions all that well, it's really hard to get to know them. That's kind of been a struggle, but yeah, we're getting there. It's all
Are you guys doing anything in person up in Vermont?
No. So since I'm a state worker, the governor made us all work from home for now, except for like the ones that have to go in, like transportation type people. But yeah, so everything I do now is virtual. So when I connect with like parents or teachers, administrators, it's all virtual. Sometimes I just run to the office to print stuff because it's free.
Oh, they pay for my ink. But y'all pays for my ink and my paper.
Oh, I love that.
nice. Yeah. I had asked that too, Anna, in the teaching and learning final draft for the story that you did. I asked if you guys were in person or not. So that's interesting. So the K-12 schools are not either, or are they?
We have some schools that are cohorts. So some kids come on A days, some kids come on B days, some schools are like half their population is virtual, half is in person. We have a lot of LEA control, like school control. So our Secretary of Education kind of like gave a few ideas of a few different types of plans that schools could implement, but let it really be the choice up to each school and school district. So it's been interesting, and we're like kind of rolling into, we were in phase 2 of like safety. We have like pretty low numbers here. And we're now rolling into phase 3 where we can now have more students in classrooms and stuff. So I'm wondering if schools will change their plans as to what they want to do.
Yeah. We seem to be going backwards. South Dakota is actually worse now for cases than it was in April, May, June.
Wow.
We're not doing well. So, but we never really closed down anything. And guidance is the same, you know, for the schools, just kind of do what you think is best. So I think all of our schools in South Dakota, if I remember correctly, all went face to face. Some require masks, some don't, but now we're finding that a lot of our school districts are having to shut down for hopefully just 2 weeks to flush out the virus, or try to. It's kind of it's been crazy.
Yeah.
Washington, D.C., are you guys face to face or virtual?
All virtual. There are some like charter schools who are starting to do some type of things in person. Like they're allowing kids specifically on IEPs or high need to go in for a couple of hours on Wednesday for something they're calling Wednesday morning hours. They have to wear a mask, and it's capped only at 60 kids.
Okay.
So once that 60th kid signs up, no one else can go. And the mayor just said that we're not opening our public schools at least until January.
Okay.
So, and I mean, our cases for the most part are staying steady. We have a few, I think, like there's a slight uptick because now people are traveling more.
Sure.
But not anything big. I think like this area has seen pretty low numbers since September.
Good.
And we've recorded no deaths since August. So
that's wonderful.
But I think after seeing what's happened with New York City public schools opening and now they're closing them again, our mayor's being very cautious.
You bet. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Right. So anything else I can help you ladies with? I will run through Microsoft Teams here